地面反力3つの力。
We're looking at pressure shifts and ground reaction forces. How you're putting force in the ground. One is horizontal, which is a kind of a lateral force. Another is torque, which is rotation and shear. And the final one is verticals. Every golfer utilizes lateral, rotation, and vertical. Everyone has glide, then spin, then launch. Scott came up with and called it the kinetic sequence. The only thing happens first, rotation second, and verticals third.
Kinetic sequence, which again, this person right here, Dr. Scott Lynn, was the person who coined that. And what they're talking about is all great players have horizontal force first, torque force, and then vertical force. They have it in that order, right? That is going to be the sequence.
Second thing we need to understand, in that sequence, there is peak force windows, okay? Between the top of the backswing and the left arm basically at 45, horizontal happens, okay? And between left arm at 45 and left arm parallel to the ground, peak torque happens. And between left arm parallel to the ground and shaft parallel to the ground, we see peak verticals happen. So as long as you happen in your right windows, you cannot believe how much farther you hit it.
So this is a really important point of the video because it's going to establish the next part of the video where they start to talk about different pivots, and then within those different pivots, yes, you're going to want to have the same kinetic sequence. However, different pivots should be focusing on different forces that they're trying to optimize, as well as...
Another thing we need to understand is because we utilize, there's different posts, and each post utilizes one force more heavier than another, okay? Rear post, like Scott, is going to utilize more horizontal, and they'll use torque and vertical as their braking action. A front post golfer, somebody who pivots back and through around the front leg, is going to utilize more verticals, but it's not a sharp peak. It's more of a gradual peak, and it happens.
So when it comes to the most valid point in this video, I think the kinetic sequence is going to be that. All great players, no matter who they are going to have a horizontal force first, the torque force second, and then the vertical force last when it comes to the downswing sequence, right? And that is absolutely a must. Now, when it comes to matching up your kinetic sequence and kind of the timings and the peak amounts and what you're focusing on relative to your post, relative to a Mike Adams theory, that's when I think it gets a little bit dodgy, it gets a little bit gray area, and that's when I start to kind of talk about the